Okay, guys, alternate ending. Take 43.
With so many movies on the net and TV, it's kind of hard being up and film savvy. Do you catch a show while you're on the go? And how do you know what to keep or what to throw? How do you know what to keep or what to throw? Tune in, tune in, tune in to alternate ending. Tune in, tune in, tune in to alternate ending. Now! Please give a warm welcome to the hosts of Alternate Ending.
Welcome to Alternate Ending, where we're discovering good movies, one bad movie at a time. I'm one of your hosts, Tim Brayton, critic in residence. Sitting next to me is our casual moviegoer, Carrie Jarosinski, and across from me is our film school dropout, Robert Jarosinski. So we have an exciting episode for you tonight. It will be the first ever spoiler alert episode of Alternate Ending, which is where we're going to talk in depth about the movie Arrival, which recent Oscar winner, fairly big box office hit. But before we get to Arrival, you know, we thought we'd talk a little bit about how things are going on our respective movie-going years. And Rob, you were telling me earlier that you have set yourself a goal.
Yeah, I think it's a goal I was able to barely squeak by with last year, and so I felt like it was appropriate to try to set the same goal this year because it was a bit of a stretch goal. For me, that's 200 movies. I want to watch 200 movies in a year again this year. And month to date, I'm just counting now. I probably should have done this homework a little bit ahead of time. We took in Big Trouble in Little China in the new year, so that's how I marked the new year, as any moviegoer should, is with Big Trouble in Little China.
Well, when did you start it?
I'm counting January 1st.
Okay. So this wasn't like a midnight screening.
It was. Yeah, I guess I can't count it. So starting with Rogue One on the January 2nd as my first movie of the new year, I am at 35 movies for 2017 to date. So right on pace. If you do the math, I'm looking to come in right around 200.
Okay.
How about you guys?
I feel like this is a bit of a setup. I set a different goal. Not quite 200, but my goal was to see 52 movies.
Okay, so one a week?
One a week.
That's fair. That's a good goal. Yeah.
That's right.
How are you doing?
I'm already like almost halfway there.
Are you really?
I think so.
You think so? There's nothing to back it up?
Yeah. My memory serves me correct. I think I'm about 20-ish movies.
20? I mean, it's well under a quarter of the way through, so
yeah,
under a third of the way through.
What your guys' mistake here was, you got to set the bar at a certain level so that you can just easily jump it. And that's what I do.
That's what you do in life, is you just set the bar really low, so you pat yourself on the back every time.
I always win.
You always win. Everything is a success.
Fail if you
I'm going to get out of bed today. Hooray me.
Sometimes I don't do that. But yeah, what about you, Tim?
Well, I don't have a overall movie goal. I do have a goal. I don't know if either of you are familiar with the social media campaign 52 Films by Women, but the idea is to try and watch 52 films directed by female filmmakers, which ends up at one a week. I don't think the rule is really watch one a week. I think it's just have watched 52 by the end of the year. So I've been doing that. I'm not terribly far along, but also I kind of always knew that most of my film watching until May was going to be kind of contingent on what I had to watch more than on what I wanted to watch.
So it's more manly than you wanted it to be.
So I'm watching so many male films. It's just like such virile testosterone-based filmmaking. But I am, I believe, 6 films into that at this point. And
you know, when I step back to think about the movies that I've watched, I don't even think a single one.
Oh, it's horrifying.
Yeah,
it's
scary.
Astonishing.
What about that one with the bombs?
Catherine Bigelow is who you're thinking of with the Hurt Locker.
That's exactly what I was thinking of.
Marriage. This is what marriage does. We're kind of psychically linked here. This is what we do. Catherine Bigelow is who you think of.
That's like my huge thing.
Can
you can do that.
The only reason that one popped into mind is that's the only female director that I could actually think of. It's
sure,
the one
that was a good movie, though.
It was a good movie.
Well,
with the Black Hawk guy.
That being said, I do want to, not to make Carrie and Rob feel terrible. So without even setting a goal for myself, I have so far in 2017 seen 95 movies.
Wow.
Are you in school?
And to be fair, 17 of those movies were shorts.
Okay.
And I'm counting shorts. That is perhaps disingenuous and unfair. So
I think even taking that off, it's still ridiculous.
I'm counting commercials in my 20s, so I think that's fine.
Well, very good. I know this is part of our new spoiler alert segment or episode that we're going to be doing. So I thought before we get into there, we could talk a little bit about movies worth mentioning. So what is the worth mentioning segment of our show of the movies we've seen since the last episode? Which one? In this case, one, because we're trying to keep things nice and tight here. Which one do you guys want to bring forward to talk about in the last week that you saw? So I'll start. I guess I'll start with you, Tim. Why not?
Well, I'm gonna go ahead and make this easy on myself. The only movie that I've watched in the last 10 days that I did not review on the site, and be sure to go to the site and check out all of our wonderful movie reviews, where you will see our thoughts on Logan and our thoughts, or my thoughts at least, on Rock Dog, which is not the best movie I've seen in the last 10 days. No, I'm going to go with a direct-to-video movie from last year called Batman: Return of the Caped Crusaders. It is an animated film by the DC animated... I don't know what they're calling it now. It used to be the DC animated universe, but now they don't all take place in the same continuity. But it's a cartoon set sort of nebulously in the 1960s with Adam West and Burt Ward as the voices of Batman and Robin. And it's like a latter-day 1966 Batman TV show adventure, but done as a cartoon. It's not the best thing in the world, but it's very fun. The screenplay was clearly written by people who know the Batman TV series and love it. Adam West was having an absolute ball voicing the character, and you can just tell. And the whole script is just full of all sorts of these really tiny needling gags about the history of Batman and like how faintly ridiculous the character is and how this is really the only incarnation to ever really own that fact. So as far as animated Batman movies that are auto critiques of the character, I gotta say I think it's better than Lego Batman movie, and it's also only 78 minutes, so it's a lot more attainable.
Well, what's interesting about what you're saying too is I think there was a time where superhero movies were missing the mark for me. So I would often go to the animated features in television shows too, and the animated movie series, some of the Batman ones are just really great storylines and well animated and things. So it's great that they're still putting out great animated superhero movies as well.
And I mean, if you pinned me down and said, what is your all-time favorite superhero movie, I would be inclined to name one of the DC animated films. So I'm not going to say which one, because at some point I think we're actually going to do a list of that.
It would be a good episode. What about you, Carrie? What movie in the last week or so you want to talk about? Could be good, could be bad. What is it going to be?
I feel like I'm going to pick yours, probably. I am going to go with Logan.
Yeah,
is that what you had?
That's what I can't not talk about it.
So there's a little bit of recency we just saw, but there's a little bit of awesome in here too. So we should probably just do a spoiler episode on this too, because there's probably a lot to talk about, but I won't go into that. It's directed and written by James Mangold. It just came out. Right, like a couple weeks ago.
It just came out this past week.
And this is part of the Wolverine series.
One of the few movies where I'm proud of that all three of us have seen relatively
in
close
fast
to.
Fashion
in fast
too.
fashion, yeah, exactly.
So and in theaters. We saw it in theaters. It's hard for us to get there. We hauled my dad out and we're like, let's go. My dad loves anything Marvel. And I love everything Marvel on top of it too. And generally I'm not... Like, in the scheme of things, Wolverine isn't usually rise to the top as, like, my favorite of the characters. But in this one in particular, this is set sort of in the near future, I think 2029, I think. And it's set up with sort of an ailing Wolverine. He's kind of old. I mean, they've aged him, right?
Right.
He doesn't look like that.
Hugh Jackman is less old than Wolverine is.
Less old than Wolverine. Good. Because I was getting a little depressed. I was feeling aged. So anyway, it's a story. It's kind of a story that takes you back to... I don't want to spoil it.
Well,
there's a girl.
That's the thing.
Don't spoil it.
Yeah.
I think the key thing, you mentioned that...
It's a must-see.
It's just go to theaters right now. Like, whatever you're doing right now, turn the car, find the nearest theater and go see this in theater. I don't know if you feel quite as strongly as that, Tim, but
Rob gave it a 5. I gave it 4.5. Tim gave it a 4. I'm going to call out one quick thing, though. So I read your review.
Yes.
But I had seen the movie. Read your review. Very well written. I liked it.
Thank you.
It seemed like you were more critical than a 4. So you gave it 4 stars, but the review itself was somewhat critical. Wouldn't you say?
So the difficulty with talking about Logan, as you pointed out, is that you can't talk about the final scene.
Yeah.
And the final scene is huge in that movie.
Or the scene with the girl. The girl is epic in this.
She's really good.
She's really good.
Where did she come from? I mean, she's crazy.
One thing I want to say, because you said you love all things Marvel, and I will disagree I've been deeply, deeply disappointed by one of my favorite series, which is the X-Men series. They have not lived up to my expectations of X-Men. So the Marvel movies that Marvel owns, been very satisfied with those, but with 20th Century Fox or whoever's doing the Logan movies and X-Men movies, have not been happy with where they've taken the universe. We saw X-Men Apocalypse. I think both of us, Carrie, left disappointed from that movie.
So. Yeah.
I have not been looking forward to it, and finally I feel like I have a movie that what a superhero movie could be, which is don't focus on the fact that they're superheroes, focus on the characters.
Sure.
And then, they just happen to have superhero powers.
Which is something that hasn't really happened since The Incredibles.
Yep.
Honestly, like that was the last superhero movie I can think of that is a character piece about superheroes. And I actually do like the X-Men film series inconsistently. I mean, you have the heights on one hand of Days of Future Past, which I think is the best superhero movie of the current decade, followed probably by Logan at number 2, honestly. And then you have something that's like just horseshit, like X-Men Origins Wolverine, which is referenced in Logan. And it's like one of the only 2 movies get specific verbal call-outs, and the other one is the first X-Men. And it's like, of all the movies to be like, we're going to keep that in continuity, it's Origins, but whatever. Logan's still really good.
I have 2 critical questions that I'll direct more towards Tim, but Carrie, you might have seen some of these movies as well too. Explain James Mangold to me, okay? This is his career so far. I'm going to just a couple highlights or lowlights. Copland.
Yes.
Girl Interrupted.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Girl Interrupted was good.
Kate and Leopold.
Masterpiece of our time.
The
best movie released during our lifetime.
Identity, Walk the Line.
Is that sarcasm?
3:10 to Yuma, and then Night and Day. Well, I don't understand.
So here's the key to James Mangold. You put him in the American West because he loves Westerns. Because I would say that Logan and 3:10 to Yuma, far, far better than anything else on that list.
Yeah.
So you get him where there are pine trees and sunsets, and you let him go to town. When you make him deal with, based on that list, I would say in particular romantic chemistry, he cannot do it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Unnecessary in this one, I will say too. Pretty movie too.
Very pretty.
Visually
Very pretty.
stunning. I gave it a 5 because I'm emotionally attached.
Yeah, I knew that's
I'll
what
be
it was.
upfront about that too. And I forgive it all of its other sins. But as a comic book lover, finally feeling I want to reward it because I want to see more movies, more comic book movies.
With that much passion.
You will see more movies like this. Most of them were probably going to be much worse.
So the question then becomes, does this at all stand a shot at Best Picture?
No.
Oh, come on, guys.
No.
Give me some hope.
You're riding the high.
It's going to be the number 1 on the Cahiers du Cinema end of year top 10. Does that give you hope?
That gives me some hope.
The French are going to give it 12 billion stars.
Well, remember, you can find more details about all the movies we've watched, like Logan, at our website, alternateending.com. That's alternateending.com. When we get back, we're going to be talking about Arrival in depth. But before we head to our break, we get asked a lot about how to support the show. So direct from our website, you can head to our Patreon page, which provides you access to tons of perks. You want to make us watch a movie? Have Tim write a review? Pick your own episode topic? You can do it all on our Patreon page. Also, I want to thank all the listeners who support the show and make their Amazon purchases through our site. Doing it is easy. Just go to our website, alternateending.com, click on the Amazon banner, and seamlessly go about your purchases. All proceeds go to making our show better. Since the last episode, I've been really excited to talk about our recent purchases.
No.
We had a movie purchase, which is one of the few times where an instant video, one I don't think I've seen, A Story Worth Living.
I've never heard of that.
No, I haven't either.
Now I just need to go figure out what that is.
So, but I don't get it. How did they click through if you've never heard of it?
Well, you can click into the site and then search.
All right.
Yeah,
all right.
absolutely.
Thanks
You
for
don't
letting me know how our site works.
That's actually, well, this is an important clarification because we want your money very badly. You can click on our link and buy anything. It doesn't have to just be you're reading my review of, I don't know, Santa and the Ice Cream Bunny, and you're like, ooh, I'm going to pay money for Santa and the Ice Cream Bunny, which you shouldn't do. You can click through and buy whatever.
Sure, why not? If you're already going,
All right.
you're already doing it.
What else? What else?
We had something called Trigger Point Grid Foam Roller with a free video. I think it's like a painting thing and with an instructional video. Some sort of 2-stroke wash plug with a steamer.
I can tell something weird's coming. I can see all over your face something weird's coming.
No. There's nothing weird about Astroglide warming liquid, the 2.5 ounce bottle.
I don't know what
so
that
it must
is.
be like a first timer because if you're gonna get Astroglide,
What is Astroglide?
Oh, it's a sexual
intimate lubricant.
No.
Oh yeah, and
No,
it's
it's
warming
not.
for her pleasure or his, both.
don't think
On those
that's
cold
what
nights,
it
it's
is.
for everyone's pleasure, really.
I think I'm going to Google this.
But
I don't think that's what
why
should
the
do
2 and
that.
why the 2.5 ounce bottle? I would go with they should sell this at Costco.
I feel myself perspiring.
I'm
right
going to
now.
go to Costco and see if they have the economic size.
Like a gallon of lube.
Wow.
So probably, I don't want to jump to conclusions here, but probably purchased alongside is Lovestown Sexy Bling Bling Nipple Cover with tassels round and red.
You're just making that up.
No, it was legitimately purchased. So I don't know if
Valentine's Day's already over.
Yeah. So I'm planning on putting those on too. I might check those out. I prefer the triangle tassel, but whatever. To each their own. Video game purchase: Mirror's Edge Catalyst from PlayStation 4. A couple of books: Songs of a Dead Dreamer and Grimscribe.
You understand that nobody cares about the books or Songs of a Dreamer.
Did I just spoil? Did I just bury the
I
lead?
can't stop thinking
you
about
didn't so
the
much
nipple
bury the
tassels.
lead as the
I spoiled-
lead was
yeah.
the entire story.
How do
Yes.
nipple tassels stay on?
I'm just going. That's a good question.
Is it a glue
Is it an
thing?
adhesive?
I mean, I don't know, but certainly you look back to the noble tradition of the exotic dancer, and they, for decades now have had
Sure.
small
Sure.
portions
Stick
of
on.
of
I feel like
cloth
my
and-
skin
I
crawling.
still feel
on
it's
top.
odd that if the nipple is covered, it is not considered nudity.
Right. I mean, that's the most seductive part is the that part.
Can you say it?
No, I can't.
Please say it.
That's in my words of things I can't say.
Nipple.
No, it's
It's
the
the
A
other word. It's the A word
It's
that
the
she's-
A
that
word. I
she's
can't do
struggling.
it. Yeah.
Areola.
Or is it arrival?
Is that plural? Did you just pluralize it? That makes it even worse. Oh my gosh.
Well, when we get back, we'll bring you back the other A word, arrival, and stay tuned.
Welcome back to Alternate Ending for our very special spoiler alert episode. We're discussing the movie Arrival, which came out last year, was one of the big nominees at the Oscars, got a win in the category of sound editing. So we're going to talk a little bit about the movie, how it was made, how the story worked. But I think the first thing we should really focus on, because this seems to be a bone of some contention, both among you, our listeners, and also in this room, what happens in Arrival? What is actually the plot of the movie? So Rob, since you seem to be not quite clear, and I think Carrie and I kind of both are, why don't you tell me what your question is? Like, what are you not sure about?
Why do you feel like you're wrong?
I feel like I'm set up. You
Sure.
set me up poorly for this. I don't feel like the thing I take issue with. I think it's a great movie. Let me just go out right out
Sure.
of the gate and say I think it's a great movie. It makes you question important questions about what's important in life and how our perception of time and all of that, which is great. How language plays into that and it affects our perception. That is undisputed to me. The problem I have with the movie, and what kept it for me to be a stellar movie, is it's a bit of a plot hole to me. Is Amy Adams' character uses information. She's able to go through time in her mind, or be at all points. She's able to take in time, all facets of time at the same time, and feel like she's in different parts and take actions within those parts, which is totally fine. I'm on board there. But what she does in the movie, which is a major plot point, because she's able to save the day with a piece of information that she gets from the future. So even if time is felt not in a non-linear way, you're still aging. You're still aging, right? So you haven't got to the latest point in your life to be able to experience something and draw from that knowledge. So how is she effectively able to get a piece of knowledge that she's never had before and reference the general references of phone number and what he said to his dying wife? And he brings it up in conversation. It's like, hey, remember that time I told you that? And you can't have had that the initial time without it happening first. There needs to be the kind of first point before you can access it.
So
I'm done.
So are we ready to talk some theoretical physics?
On a quick
Right,
side
Power.
note, though, can I say something? Are we assuming that everybody that's listening right now has seen this, or should we give a little bit of
The show is
history?
called Spoiler
Okay,
Alert.
Yes.
just want to be sure because
Laurel Hose,
this
one
is
of
an
our
alien
audience
movie. There's some
members.
aliens.
Yeah.
There's some really large
So the plot
aliens.
of let's
Okay.
go ahead, and I think that's fair. So Arrival, the arrival is of aliens. They show up, and there is a linguist whose name I don't actually remember her character name.
Amy Adams.
Amy Adams.
Professor Amy Adams.
Yes, that's all I need to know.
So she is a linguist. She's been responsible for translations for the military in the past. And she's very sad. And she's sad, we assume, because we see these flashbacks to her daughter, who in the initial flashbacks, her daughter seems like, just like a little kid. But as the flashbacks progress throughout the first 30 or 40 minutes of the movie, it becomes very clear her daughter died of cancer. So she's alone. We get the impression that her daughter is dead and her husband left her. So now she's just really sad. So she jumps at the chance to do something, and translating for this newly arrived alien race is very exciting. So the bulk of the movie is, how does she do that? Like, the bulk of the movie is she goes in the ship, she learns to decode this very strange language where the written form comes in the, like, it's like this,
puffs.
These like puffs of ink, like squid ink in circles, and the spoken language has no real relationship to the written language. And by the end of the movie, what happens is that she has been, so basically we discover that the aliens' gift is their language, and that the reason it's their gift is because it allows the brain to think outside of linear time. And this, we're going to get into a whole thing that we're going to, it's above my pay grade, and I'm an actual like studying for a PhD. So it's, we'll take it slow. The basic thrust is that because she learns the language, she is able to perceive time outside of time. And we discover along the way, her child has not been born yet. Those are not flashbacks, they are flash forwards. And she is aware that her child will die of cancer. And she has to make, her husband will leave her, and her husband turns out to be Jeremy Renner, who is the other scientist working along her this whole time. So she has to make the choice, knowing that her child will die, her husband will leave her.
To do all of those things, to get married, to have a child.
The pleasure of being a mother.
Yeah.
Like she has such fond memories of her child to be being a beautiful little girl.
Heartbreaking.
Like, she's going to make that choice anyway. Even though she knows it ends tragically, she's still going to do it so she can generate those very positive memories. So the theoretical physics aspect of it, and any physicists in the crowd who want to pitch in on social media or in comments to tell me that I'm an idiot and I have no idea what I'm talking about, please do, because I'm an idiot and I have no idea what I'm talking about.
It sounds good, though. You sound good talking about it.
The time, the thing that starts here and moves forward and ends there, is a function of the universe. It exists within the universe. So there is something outside of time, as I understand it. Our perception that things move in a direction and we age and die exists because we are within time, but we don't have to be within time. So from a sufficiently vast outside perspective, outside of the universe and outside of the physics that guide our universe, all of time is always happening all at once. So if you can somehow step outside of time, you will see the entire batch of everything from the Big Bang to the Great Crunch or whatever ends up happening is all simultaneous. So what the conceit of the movie is that because she's learned this language, and then there's a whole other theoretical linguistics thing going on here, she is able to achieve that perspective. So it's not so much that the phone number needs to happen the first time for her to be able to access it. It's that she is always already receiving that phone number from the general. See, and she just has to plug into the part of the time stream. Let me
give you a much better time travel. And I know it's not a time travel movie.
It's not a time travel movie.
Yeah, it's not. But Quantum Leap. Sam Beckett can only travel within his own timeline. Mm-hmm. He can't travel forward.
Yeah, he does.
He does in the end.
Spoiler alert for the 35-year-old television program Quantum Leap, y'all.
But I don't understand how she can't get to that future part because she's never been there before. And if she has been there before, how did that general know to say, hey, remember that time that I told you about this thing? And they reference, and she uses that information.
Well, because she's there now. She's there now. Yeah. She's watching her child die now. She's giving birth to her child now. It's all right now. Like there
so
is only now.
As soon as you're born, you can access your future. That initial time that it doesn't have to have happened once.
I think this is the idea. Well, because if you are standing outside of time, it's already happening. You are born and you die simultaneously.
Wow.
And everything that happens in between.
Well, then in that
happens
case, now my
simultaneously.
mind is blown.
Right, it's mind blowing.
Yeah, I just
it is
don't.
a totally
I
mind
can't.
blowing thing.
That I cannot wrap my mind around.
Well, that's the beauty. That's the beautiful thing of theoretical physics. Is like it's nuts. It's just fucking nuts.
It brings up the question too, then of, and I think a couple of audience members had this too, is the free will versus versus kind of destiny or predestined. And I struggle with. I like asking myself those types of questions too. And she chooses. In this case, it seems as though she has a choice to change things, and she still doesn't because she wouldn't take away the good, or she wouldn't change the bad and risk the good being gone with it. Is that right?
The way I understand it is she has access throughout all of time to the knowledge of her daughter existing and the pleasurable memories of it existing. But if she chooses not to have her daughter, so even though her daughter's entire life is already happening all at once, if she chooses not to have that daughter, all of that goes away. She will close off the possibility of having memories of her daughter in the future. So she chooses to have the daughter because of the joy that she feels from those memories, even though she knows pain is associated. So I read Arrival as saying free will exists. Like we have this huge like flow of time, but you can change all of it by the choices you make, and she chooses not to change things.
See, I would be messing with my timeline. I'd be tweaking it. I'd eat tomato soup and then play it forward and see like, oh, how did tomato soup butterfly effect style change? And I could experience it all at once. And so that's what I don't get. If she has the ability to experience time at all times, she doesn't seem to put any effort towards creating a scenario where the ending is happier for everybody involved, and she just accepts her fate the way that it's kind of lined up to be.
And that, I think, gets us to the question of what are movies doing.
Yeah.
And in this case, so the thing is, Arrival's not a sci-fi. I mean, it is a sci-fi movie. It's not a movie about aliens. It's a movie about why do we love our children?
Yeah.
Like that's what the movie is about. And the movie's saying like,
tearjerker.
If you know that your child is going to die, do you still want to have that child because you know you will love them and they will love you? And I think that's actually what makes Arrival from this very like interesting but sort of chilly like design exercise into something that's actually really moving, is that it's about that. It's like if you are giving birth to this little being, and that little being will eventually die, and in an ideal world it dies later than you do. But like if you know that's not the case, how do you relate to it?
So I'm going to back up to another question. So, and help me out here. So her ability to do this is just triggered from these aliens.
So
right?
So we're gonna hop gears from theoretical linguistic for theoretical
to where I want to talk
into no, this is cool. This is the other like thing. So one of the tenets of postmodern linguistics, which is not the only form of linguistics, and certainly probably the most like famous among non-linguists, and I am not a linguist, is Noam Chomsky, who believes none of what I'm about to say. So there's a conceit that the language you use controls your brain. Like we use language, and that forecloses on possibilities that exist outside of that language. And the example actually that I recently encountered, the Russian language has 2 words for blue. So we say blue, and we mean everything from robin's egg blue down to navy blue and all things in between. Russian distinguishes between light blue and dark blue in their language. Those are 2 different colors. So Russian, like native Russian speakers, when they just look around the world, perceive that it is more blue than other speakers do. And this apparently has been like demonstrated experimentally. So that's sort of the very small version of what the idea is, which is that the language you use constrains what you're able to notice in the world.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying.
And because this alien language is not bounded by time, the speaker of it therefore is no longer constrained.
Okay.
Now, I will say against the movie, and I think it's a very beautiful like thought piece and sentimental thing. I'm not 100% sure that I believe any of that theory. And even if I did, humans are biological entities that were designed to exist within time. Our brains exist within time. I don't think that just talking about time in a different way actually could cause us to recode our brains that way. I think that's a leap in movie.
There were other aspects about the importance of language that I really liked in certain scenes where initially Forrest Whitaker's character goes to her as the premier linguist, and she kind of hesitates or causes him to maybe go to the number 2 choice for a moment, and she says, "Hey, before you go to number 2,
oh yeah, I like that.
ask him what Sanskrit is for war, or something like that.
That was
and it means I want your cows." And that for me just made my heart stop to think like, wow, how a simple miscommunication could be perceived differently.
Well, that was a huge element of the whole movie, right?
I mean, the whole idea behind it is like, oh, okay, they just want cows. They don't want to fight with us.
Right.
And it's like, wow, how many battles have been fought over, miscommunication, and how important it would be in an alien encounter to make sure we were on the same page, that we were saying the same thing so we don't jump to conclusions.
Well, and that's one nuance that Tim didn't mention is it's not only this one alien setting here, there's like 12 ships parsed throughout the world, and so it's the whole idea of all the different countries are reacting in different ways
and collaborating, but then competing at the same time.
And that explicitly, we don't get any of this if we don't, as a species, collaborate.
Yeah. Right.
Like that's very.
And I think that was a big built-in element for us.
And then it's always the Chinese and the Russians,
They're
messing everything. No, I'm just messing. I'm just joking.
They always
in
movies they always portray them. Why don't they?
That I found that a little bit niggling. Honestly, it was like.
Why don't you make it Canada? Yeah. Why can't Canada be the one?
And like in a real world scenario, which are the countries likeliest to cause issues? And, it probably is China. But like
always China. But why not make it? Yeah.
It's just
Australia.
It felt weirdly like nationalistic in a way that the whole movie is specifically not being.
Yeah.
To be like, oh, those darn Chinese.
Well, we touched on it on another film. I can't remember where it was like, it was Hidden Figures. It was like, hey. The cop who pulls over the women early on in the movie, the white cop who pulls over the black women early on in the movie, and they get him talking about, we're going to get those Russians. And it's like, we just feel like we need to have a common enemy. And if we're enemies, let's just find a different enemy to pick on.
Oh, for sure.
And it's just, that's I guess, human nature a little bit disappointing.
And it's, that goes far beyond the scope of this conversation, but I do think that there's a lot to be said for, we do have these systems of culture and of government that basically orient themselves around who are the bad guys.
Yeah.
And you have on one level, the bad guys are, the Russians. And you have on one level, you winnow it down far enough and it's like the bad guys are the other school, or the bad guys are, gay people or whatever. So like society's kind of structured on that.
I want to take a moment too, just because we obviously have access to you, Tim, is like other things. We talked a little bit about plot and things like that. Like what other elements of the movie should we have taken notice of maybe in a second viewing or something like that?
Well, one of our online commenters, I believe, had some interesting thoughts about the amount of circular design in the movie, which I think is a really keen point. So for me, the image I think of when I think of the movie is the language. Like the actual representation of the written language is this indistinct but very clearly circular shape. And there are like circles. It is a circle-driven movie. I think that's a very, very key. Can you remind me who?
Joy V. Hill.
Yeah, so Joy, that's a great observation that I had actually not made. So that's really, really on point. So it is visually curved surfaces are a huge part of what's going on in that movie. And then of course there's the contrast to the main location in the movie is that very rectangular hallway that leads into the viewing room, sort of. So you have this interesting contrast between very fluid moving shapes and these rigid right angles. So that's interesting.
And it's funny when you say stuff like that, because I wonder how many times folks just assume like was every frame is thought through, right? In filmmaking, it's nothing happens necessarily by accident. If it is happening on accident, then probably not a good filmmaker to begin with. But
right, Rob and I can both speak to this because we both went through film school for a time. Everything is a choice. There are no the coffee mug that is on a set was a choice. Someone put it there, and maybe they left it there by accident. Maybe it's just the Grips cup. But like movies don't sort of come down out of the ethers. No, like someone chose to design the inside of the ship that way, and they got an Oscar nomination for it, and they deserved it.
What about does anything else strike you? Did Carrie, like just production wise, or like what aside from the plot kind of stands out to you? For me, it was like some of the sound was. I didn't pick it for sound. I didn't pick it. It won best sound.
It won best sound editing.
So That's a tough category for me. I don't know what the critics are after, so I usually just pick the
critics
highest
don't
paid.
understand how to describe it.
Yeah, or what the Academy is after.
Well, I will just quickly, for those of you who don't know the difference, sound mixing and sound editing. Sound mixing is controlling the relative levels of different sounds. So if, for example, I'm talking and, I'm also tapping my coffee cup, I have to talk a little bit louder to make sure that you can hear me over the coffee cup. The sound editing would be manipulating sound. So like if you want it to sound echoey, you add like reverberations, or if you want to have a gunshot, you would hit a drum and then change it to sound like a gunshot. So sound editing is kind of the sound effects category, and sound mixing is loudness and clarity. But so it was nominated for sound editing, or won for sound editing, was nominated for sound mixing. Very rightfully, I think. The sound editing is beautiful in that movie. The way the inside of the alien spaceship sounds is so cool, and of course it has the klaxon sound, which is really iconic in the advertising. It creates this really compelling space through sound, because the space is like two things. It's gray walls and a white plexiglass screen, basically.
I'll go back to one thing that just popped in my head. The whole purpose for the aliens visiting is to give this gift, because at some point they're gonna rely on humans to come and help them in the future, which is like 3,000. So they must have really long lifespans, is what one can assume for that. But then I think it also shows that there must be some element of choice, back to your point, that
right. Because
if they're giving this gift in hopes that it'll influence to do something, they're trying to create a new timeline for themselves.
Exactly.
For the timeline that they're in, for some reason their race dies off, and they're trying to prevent that from the future. So yeah, it was just that just popped in my head there a little bit. So what do you think, Care, about Jeremy Renner and Amy Adams? You buy?
It's like you read my mind. Yeah. That's what I just wanted to talk about.
Did you wish for them to end up together and then torn apart?
Laurel had a similar question. Laurel Hose had a similar question. All right, I'm going to throw this out here. Hopefully I articulate it, because it's confusing. So she knows, obviously, when she and Jeremy Renner start their relationship, what's coming. She's seen it. Remember the clip where the daughter says to her something along the lines of, like, Daddy left because he was mad, or Daddy left because he knew you knew, or it was something along those.
Right.
So whatever that clip was, where she essentially, could she have not? He leaves her because he finds out that she knew all along that the daughter was going to die, right?
Right. That's how I take it.
But she would have had to have told him that she knew that she knew.
Can't you just leave that out?
Why wouldn't you just
leave that out?
Why would you tell?
Yeah, just leave that part out.
So it was her own fault that she could have changed the future.
She's honest.
Well, you don't have to be honest about something like that.
Well,
I think you do, honestly. Yeah. I think that's exactly the kind of thing you have to be honest about.
It's just a white lie, Tim.
It's no one's a white lie. Well, I mean,
we both know I'm terrible with surprises or keeping secrets, so I wouldn't be able to keep it. But
I would definitely keep it from
this is what I was talking about earlier. It's like I would be messing with the formula nonstop until I had the perfect. And I think what movies like A Butterfly Effect show you that the more you mess with it, though, I think the worse it could possibly get. So, maybe who knows? Yeah,
I wouldn't. There's nothing good that can come from me telling you that information other than hurt. So basically, her daughter would have passed, and she at least would have had her husband, and the two could have lived on merrily. But she tells him that she knew that her daughter was going to die before she conceived her.
Let me propose this. At some point, everybody will have this gift in humanity, you would think, at some point, right? So if once he inherits that gift, maybe she thought ahead of time and could see that.
You're reaching.
No. Like, he would know, like, wait a second. So wait, if I can go and access time at any point, so could you when you learn the language. So hold on a second. Like, did you know?
Yeah, just wait for that to play itself out.
I think, the idea that every human will have access to this very difficult language is maybe not.
In time.
Well, because, does every human being speak Mandarin Chinese?
And Esperanto, and I'm still hoping.
Does every human being speak Esperanto?
I'm still holding
which is a language designed to be easy to learn. My sort of fan wank for what's going on there is that because Jeremy Renner knows that Amy Adams can see into the future, at some point he asks the question, how could you not see our daughter died? And at that point she has to say,
yeah, sure. She's just too honest not to leave that,
All right, I just wanted to clear that
Except
one
I guess
up.
that doesn't really meet the data points because he leaves her before the daughter gets sick. I don't know.
Yeah, that was another thing. Let's talk about that for just a quick sec. So he just can't handle the fact that he knows that she will become ill and leaves.
Right.
Well, that's kind of a D thing to do.
Well, can I be uncharitable? He's played by Jeremy Renner, so he's obviously unlikable.
Yeah.
Is it sarcasm?
No, I find him very off-putting.
Oh, really?
I don't like Jeremy Renner.
Oh,
I think the casting is. I think he's very likable in the movie,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's not. I mean, who knows what the circumstances are? I don't know if they had joint custody. You know what?
No, I think he's MIA. I think he's gone.
He leaves. He's gone.
Oh, that's a
Yeah, kind of a.
Oh, he's an asshole.
Yeah.
He's a
Kind of
total
one
asshole.
of those. And so part of me thinks maybe peace out. Maybe the aliens, this was their setup all along. They didn't want Amy Adams to be married to a doucher, so they give them this information so that he leaves.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I think
Did you see that, Tim?
It's a bit of stretch.
I think that is the exact right solution. I don't think we can possibly
You can't deny
improve
that,
upon
no.
that rating of Arrival. So I think we should probably
Just leave it at that
wrap
one.
things up.
That's
at that
the way
point.
we should end the episode. Well, every episode we do randomly select one member of our audience who shared either some comments or thoughts or top movie picks. This week's winner is Brendan Klein. So excited about
Brendan's a reader of mine from a while back from the old blog. Really good guy. He has an excellent website in his own right. It is called Popcorn Culture at jiffypop.blogspot.com or Jiffy Pop Culture.
Yep, you got it.
jiffypopculture.blogspot.com. Really good horror, mostly reviews, some other stuff, so check that out.
Yeah, excited to have Brendan win. And he had a question along with that, obviously. His question, which we won't be able to help you with, Brendan, because neither of us has read. It's the relationship of Arrival to Slaughterhouse-5. I remember seeing like a Sean Astin movie. I don't read, so that already kind of...
Like
I know it's Kurt Vonnegut. Like, I know enough about that, but don't know anything about how it ties
I've read
into
some
it.
of Vonnegut's nonfiction, but I haven't read any of his fiction, honestly.
Brendan, go ahead and shoot us an email at contact@alternetending.com for details on how to claim your free movie rental. If you want to win a free movie like Brendan, be on the lookout for our spoiler alerts or top 5 movie posts on Facebook and Twitter to share your favorite picks. In closing, thanks everybody for listening. Check us out on social media. We're on Facebook. Go out there, like our page, follow us there. Twitter, alternating.com. Subscribe to our podcast on iTunes or Google. And then, Tim, you had some thoughts.
I just wanted to make sure that everybody is aware of our next podcast, which is going to be very exciting for those of you who know in my previous life, I'm a bit of a Disney nut. We're going to be looking at our 5 favorite live-action Disney films in honor of Beauty and the Beast. So
Perfect. You going to join us for that one, tim, you think?
I'm hoping.
All right.
We're gonna
Well,
play.
stay tuned. We'll
put on the
catch you guys
coffee.
next week.